Hey, what's up guys, it's Red here with a Kagurabachi video. I totally didn't take over 8 months since the last video. Totally. I mean, I'm kinda remaking the previous videos, but with the addition of 2 enchanted blades and more information about the blades themselves in general. But make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Also become a channel member. Either way, let's get going. Now, some basics, I guess, of the enchanted blades themselves. Firstly, there are 7 enchanted blades in the series. All of them were created by Kunishige Rokuhira. The first 6 enchanted blades were crafted for the Setai War, which was when Japan was fighting another country, and those 6 enchanted blades were used to change the tides of war. One of them specifically was the one to fully finish it. The 7th enchanted blade was created after the war, with one purpose that I'll get into later. The enchanted blades are essentially the pinnacle of sorcery in Kagurabachi, with them practically being the strongest form of sorcery. Where there are some forms of sorcery that have the potential to match their strength, like the Flamebone / Enkotsu, and while we haven't seen the full power of the Flamebone, I do believe that an enchanted blade has a higher potential for strength. The reason as to why the enchanted blades are so strong is due to the material they're made of. Daitenseki, a material used to amplify spiritual power. It is very rare and volatile, since Daitenseki does amplify spiritual energy for a temporary amount of time, and it's really only temporary because the Daitenseki amplifies spiritual energy so much that the user dies from it. However, only one man, and possibly another, were able to forge Daitenseki into a safe state where anyone can use it. Kunishige Rokuhira. And that's the reason why no one else has made more enchanted blades. It's because they just can't. Kunishige and possibly Chihiro are just built differently. Now, the blades have a system where only one person can use a specific enchanted blade, since the blades have lifelong contracts with the user that only break when a user dies. The contract will be completely broken, so if the user of a blade somehow does come back to life, they won't have the contract with their blade anymore. From what we know, all the enchanted blade contracts are tied with the lifelong contract of the quote-unquote master swordsman, aka the user of the strongest enchanted blade. So, if he dies, all the people who have enchanted blade contracts will die with him. Another factor of lifelong contracts is that the user of an enchanted blade loses their original sorcery. What this means is that an enchanted blade's spiritual power replaces the user's sorcery. All but 1 enchanted blades have 3 main sorcery abilities. However, I'll get to the specific quirks and abilities when I talk about each blade individually. However, something that can happen with all the enchanted blades is a concept known as a true realm, where a user and blade synchronize completely with the desires of the user, which allow the user to enhance and adapt their blade's powers to whatever they desire or need. This is also a bit separate to another thing, which is that even when separated, the user can evolve and improve their abilities with their enchanted blade, mainly due to the spiritual connection between user and blade. Though, I do want to speculate a little bit and say that the enchanted blades seem to have some sort of consciousness. Not a full one like a human's, but it's clear that the blades truly listen to the user and seemingly do as they say. Kinda like how Chihiro told one of the enchanted blades to lock in, and it really did lock in. But whatever. Now onto the enchanted blades as individuals, with the original 6 being Kuregumo / Cloud Gouger, Kumeyuri, Tobimune, the Shinuchi, which is called the Magatsumi, and 2 other enchanted blades we don't know about yet. The 7th enchanted blade created after the Setai War was the Enten. Another thing I'd like to add is that the enchanted blades seem to have their spiritual energy be the shape of an animal, and all blades have unique animals. Some of them a bit too out there. And since we don't know about 2 of the enchanted blades, I'll be skipping them since we barely know what the users look like, and we don't really have any names for them. So I'll go in order of how I introduced them. So the first one is Kuregumo, which I made a video all about this one, even if it isn't the best, but whatever. Kuregumo is called the Cloud Gouger, but that's because it's the only blade with a translated name. The Kuregumo has had 3 wielders. The first was from the Setai War by the name of Misaka, who was killed and we never saw them. Psych! We just got to see Misaka Backshot's last chapter, so there he is. I also wrote this script before that chapter came out, so I guess it's good that I kinda had to delay this video. Anyways, the next wielder is Genichi Sojo. He's probably the most iconic wielder, seeing as he uses it the most on screen. Genichi Sojo was a main antagonist for Chihiro. He was a man who was a big fan of Kunishige and probably had some connection with the Master Swordsman. For being a relatively new Enchanted Blade user, Sojo was a formidable enemy. But that's also due with him not only studying Daiten Seki, but also being a powerful sorcerer. But of course, he was defeated and the Kuregumo fell into the hands of the next user, Chihiro Rokuhira himself. This also proves that a single person can use multiple enchanted blades. However, when Chihiro fought Sojo, the Kuregumo was split into 2. One piece of the Kuregumo was just a blade, while the other was the hilt. Usually, enchanted blades are indestructible, but we'll get into that later. So eventually, Chihiro needed to use the Kuregumo and used one part of the Kuregumo, which was the hilt. And because the Kuregumo was broken, it was unstable and deteriorated when it was used. And this was when Chihiro told the blade to lock in and die as property of a Rokuhira. However, the second piece of the Kuregumo is still in the possession of Chihiro. However, due to an event where Chihiro died momentarily, the Kuregumo lost its contract with Chihiro. So someone could potentially be the next user of that piece of the Kuregumo. But I'm sure Chihiro will do something about that final blade piece. Next up, I'll talk about the abilities. Kuregumo has 3 abilities, with Mei, which in English means to cry or make a sound, and this makes sense as the ability is to emit a cloud dragon which shoots out electricity like a lightning strike, and the sound is the thunder that follows. This can also be used to shoot the user out with the electricity as well, mainly caused due to the phenomenon known as the True Realm, which means to bind or connect, which makes sense as before the Kuregumo emits a cloud dragon which shoots out ice in a particular direction. So the bind and connect comes from the ability to freeze opponents. The final ability is Ko, which means rain, as this ability forms clouds to shoot out a large volume of water. This ability is mainly used to enhance the effectiveness of Mei and Yui, due to the water conducting the electricity from Mei even farther than regular, and the ice of Yui gets more effective when the targets are doused with water. And if you couldn't tell, the Kuregumo spiritual energy is represented as a dragon. But whatever. Now it's time for the next blade, the Kumeyuri, which aside from the Shinuchi is the one we've seen the least. But we have seen 2 abilities. This blade has had 2 different users. The first was Yoji Uhara, who died for a moment and lost his contract. Then the current user is Hirohiko Hirohiko, who lost the blade but is still alive. But again, he lost the blade, I think, so he can't just use it anymore. But the spiritual energy of the blade is manifested as faceless geisha-like figures that float around the user. And we did get to see 2 abilities, like I said. So the first ability is In, or Banquet. This ability has the geisha-like figures pour sake, which causes very realistic and potent illusions and hallucinations which can trick an unprepared opponent. The second ability we see is Yu, or Play. This ability allows the user to control objects, and it could be used in 2 different ways. Normally, where the more respect an object has, the more fluid it moves, and the objects can be everything from rocks to corpses. The second part of the ability is the destructive one, where if the user doesn't really respect the objects, when they get manipulated, they also get twisted, which can destroy the object. like how Hiruhiko destroyed a whole ass section of a building. And since we haven't seen the third ability, I'll get on to the next blade, which is Tobimune. To be honest, this blade might be my favorite. This one has only ever had one user, Sheiichi Samura, and this blade's spirit energy forms into birds slash parts of birds. The first ability is Karasu, or Crow. This ability summons black crow feathers, which these feathers can be used for the user to teleport from feather to feather, allowing the user to travel great distances and more easily attack his targets in any direction he wants. The second ability is Fukuro, or Owl. This ability summons owl eyes in a particular area, allowing the user to detect spiritual energy. A small, more concentrated version of this ability can even detect the slightest amount of energy, while a massive one can only detect large amounts of spiritual energy, which again is used to survey the area affected by the user. Also, before we get on to the final ability, I'd like to say that the Tobimune and probably the Kumeyuri were crafted to be support blades, with their abilities being more orientated around supporting their allies. Anyways, the final ability is one of the strongest we've seen, as it's Suzaku, the Vermilion Bird. This particular ability is based on the mythological creature of the same name, which is the Guardian of the South and is associated with fire. Suzaku is similar but not the same as a phoenix, if that helps you understand what Suzaku is a bit more. The Suzaku ability summons fire that surrounds the user and heals his wounds, while the fire also damages his opponents. However, this ability can be used on others to heal their wounds as well. And not only that, but it can also be used to repair objects. Suzaku is also used to stop fatal wounds, and this is mainly due to the experience of Samura. Samura is practically semi-immortal while holding the Tobimune. Anyways, the next blade up is the last of the original blades, the Magatsumi, or the Shinuchi, which Shinuchi is a term that originated with blacksmithing, which is used to describe the best katana out of a batch. It's usually used when a blacksmith is given a commission to make a katana and the Shinuchi is the one given to the client. This makes sense as the Magatsumi is the strongest enchanted blade. Not only does it have more than 3 abilities, but it's just super overpowered. It essentially genocided a whole country due to its true realm, the Malediction, which isn't its only unique trait. While there's only one user, the Master Swordsman, the blade can be wielded by proxy, like how Kiora Sazanami was able to use a small amount of the Magatsumi. However, since the blade is connected with the user seemingly tries to take over the body of the person wielding the blade by proxy. And the person goes berserk trying to kill as many people as the Master Swordsman wants. I kinda guess old habits die hard. Especially since it seems like the Master Swordsman is ready to, genocide Japan. Anyways, the spiritual energy of the Magatsumi comes in forms of insects and flowers. These flowers seem to just be a normal part of the blade, as the flowers spread this black liquid and kill people from the inside out if they get affected. The flowers look like they're a part of the malediction because this is just how it looks like when the malediction kills people. Anyways, the 3 abilities that we know of are Kumo, which means spider, which marks a spot on the ground that looks like a cobweb and is surrounded by spider-like sets of eyes, causing people in the web to be unable to move. The second ability is Tonbo, or dragonfly. This causes the Magatsumi to sprout out dragonfly-like wings and shoot them out in a particular direction. This ability also spreads more of the black liquid and flowers to kill more people. The third ability we know of is Mukade, or centipede. This ability surrounds the user with a construct made of multiple segments that look like a centipede. This ability protects the user, and then the user can shoot out all the segments around the area to do some AoE damage. But that's practically all we know of the Magatsumi. So it's time for the final enchanted blade, the LeBron of the enchanted blades, Enten. The Enten is the 7th enchanted blade with only one known wielder, Chihiro Rokuhira, who helped his father make the Enten. Enten's spiritual energy is represented by goldfish. But they aren't just any goldfish, they look like Kunishige and Chihiro's pet goldfish, which were red, or orange, black, and a calico goldfish. Before I get into the true purpose of the Enten, let's get into the abilities. Kuro or Black. Kuro summons a black goldfish, and this ability covers Enten in a liquid-like substance, which Chihiro can shoot out towards his enemies for massive damage. However, Kuro can also be split into mini Kuro, which are the size of regular goldfish. This allows Chihiro to not only lessen the burden of using too much energy, but they can be used to attack or even roam around like Crow. Chihiro can also somewhat see through the mini Kuro even when they aren't in the same location. Kuro can also cover a surrounding area to make it pitch black, which is probably just a whole bunch of mini Kuros just surrounding the area. The second ability is Aka, or Red. This summons a red or orange goldfish. I'm saying this because orange, as English speakers know it, doesn't really have a word in Japanese, though there are Japanese words that do describe the color. Anyways, Aka can be used to block a hit, particularly block sorcery, which is then absorbed so that Chihiro can use the copied ability, like how he used the Flame Bone. We can assume that Aka can only store one ability, but can keep it for as long as the user wants or needs. The next ability is Nishiki, and if you want to know what it could mean some more, go check out my first Kagurabachi video, shameless plug. Anyways, Nishiki is a calico goldfish, which surrounds the user to enhance their physical prowess, though it can be used and concentrated in a specific area to give more reinforcement. Like how Chihiro used Nishiki in his ears when Hiruhiko used Banquet to try to confuse Chihiro with the illusions. Now, all these abilities for Enten are used for its true purpose: to destroy the enchanted blades. Enten was made with the purpose to break the enchanted blades that are usually indestructible. Right now, Enten has broken Kuregumo and has even cracked Tobimune, though Samura healed the crack with Zuzaku. I believe that Kunishige made the Enten as a way to sort of pay for his sins due to the malediction of the Magatsumi. Basically, every enchanted blade user outside of the master swordsman felt terrible since they helped with the genocide of a whole country. So I think that all the abilities were specifically crafted to combat all the enchanted blades so that they could get destroyed for good. And the only person who could ever accomplish this is Chihiro himself. And I obviously think that he'll be able to do that and stop the Magatsumi from causing even more havoc. So yeah, that's all, and let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Please do so to help support this channel. And if you're new here, go check out my past videos and stay tuned for my future videos, especially if you like Chainsaw Man. But if you do want to help me out some more, become a channel member to get some cool perks, just like Demencia, who is a tier 2 member, so if you want to shout out like Demencia, then become a tier 2 member as well. Though you don't need to become a channel member, that's essentially an extra way you could thank me for making videos, or something like that. But anyways, thanks for watching.